The Colorado Plateau contains many incredible sandstone walls and barriers along massive faults that thrust up millions of tons of rock. However, none of them quite compare to the sandstone wall that I am going to be visiting today. Created by the Monument Upwarp millions of years ago, this 1,000-foot tall sandstone wall runs unbroken for over 35 miles. It was a truly impassable barrier in historic times as settlers struggled to cross it on their journeys west. Today, I'm going to attempt to reach the summit of this Great Wall and hopefully learn something about its geologic and archaeological past along the way. I am now standing at the base of that great sandstone wall, and as you can see, it stretches for many, many miles into the distance, in both directions. On the other side of this sandstone wall is what I like to call the ramp. It's much easier to walk up, and I think I should be able to make it up top relatively easily. So, all I need to do is get to the other side of this thing. Well, luckily, we live in the 21st century, and of course there's a road. Alright, I am now standing on the other side of the Great Sandstone Wall, and we can see that from this side it's definitely not as formidable, but still gonna take probably a good amount of work to get up there. And I'll hopefully explain well how something as crazy as this forms. Let's get going. Since this is about to be a super steep hike and I'm going to be panting the whole way, I'm going to have future Landon do an overdub and explain the geology while I hike up this thing. That way, once we get to the top and we get the amazing view, you guys know exactly what we're looking at geologically. Made it up just a little bit, and I'm already tired. On a side note though, we got a very cool little feature here. Nice pothole where water will fill up after a rainstorm, and these are nice little pockets of life here in the desert. Alright, on I go. Alright, while I'm hiking, let me give you a quick geologic explanation as to how this wall formed. And don't worry, it's not that complicated. It should be pretty easy to understand. To start off, let's look at the structure of the wall. We can see that it's made of several different rock layers, going from these harder sandstone layers at the top that make the cliff down to some softer shale and mudstone at the bottom. The important thing to know here is that all of these layers started out flat, like we can see at Zion or Canyonlands National Park. However, over here at this ridge, there is a thrust fault deep in the ground. This fault is caused from compressional forces, and it does exactly what's in its name. It thrusts one side up above the other. This event was called the Monument Upwarp, and it thrusted up this entire section here, hundreds of square miles. And we can see that it looks very different from the other side of the ridge because it is much higher in elevation. So the actual wall itself is part of a monocline, which is what happens at the fault boundary between the high side and the low side. The fault pushing up one side creates an S shape in the rock layers, as you can see on this diagram here. But eventually, the area of steep uplift was eroded down by water. And we can see on the diagram here that due to the differing hardness of the layers, a massive wall was created. We can see that the softer layers at the bottom erode much faster than the ones that are making the cliff, which allows for a portion of that steep S shape to remain. Hopefully that makes some sense. Let's get back to the adventure. If you have any questions, just type them in the comments. I just wanted to quickly highlight this beautiful piece of desert scenery. Right here we got a nice prickly pear cactus and then a bunch of biological soil crust. I imagine a lot of people who watch desert treks know all about biological soil crust, but I thought it'd be fun to just quickly mention it and point it out that there is a lot here. So what I'm having to do is kind of play a game of hot lava from when you were a kid, where the ground is hot lava and you can't touch it, so you gotta jump on all the rocks to avoid it. That's kind of what you gotta do out here in the desert to be ethical and not bust the crust. I'm gonna trust that future Landon has now explained geology, so I'm just gonna discuss things like you know what I'm talking about. But right now I wanted to say that I'm just about to an amazing petroglyph that I really wanted to see, which is why I chose the route I'm currently on. And this is really exciting because it illustrates super well how this giant wall of sandstone was not only a barrier for American settlers, but it was also a home for a lot of people. A lot of the ancient ones built in here and lived in here. And to them, I don't know if it was an impenetrable wall or rather a special place maybe. As I get farther and farther up this drainage, it's really nice to see all these native plants. This is more like what a lot of the high desert southwest would have looked like before the invasion of cheatgrass and tumbleweeds and stuff like that. Obviously there are still a couple, but up here the native stuff is predominating. And that's probably because there's just very little disturbance up this canyon. And that's always just so pleasant to see, because then when we're viewing these historical features, you can really get a better sense of what it was like for the people who lived here thousands of years ago. Because a lot of places, it certainly does not look the same today as it did back then. Obviously there is always going to be change, but it's more similar here. So, what is the historical feature I'm looking for? Happens to be one of the most iconic and awe-inspiring petroglyphs. It's very simple, but it also stands out. So right now I am trying to find it, and so far nothing, but I'll let you know if I do. Alright, I've been searching for about 20 minutes and I'm kind of exhausted, but I just spotted it. This is what I came to see. Is that not breathtaking? It has to be one of the most iconic works of art. To me, at least. And you know, maybe it's not art, maybe it's a symbol. But wow. Regardless, it's amazing. It's up here on a ledge just before the edge of the giant cliff of the sandstone wall. Just overlooking all of it. That's amazing. Stuff like that just makes me happy. I wonder if that's supposed to be a sun next to it, like a bird flying next to the sun. Although it may not look it, it was once a home. Alright, one last look at that. I wish I could just sit and look at it all day, but unfortunately the sun is setting and I want to get to the edge before it gets dark in here, so I'm gonna keep moving. Sun has officially gone down in this canyon that I'm in, but as soon as I get to the top, I'll get to see the sun again. It's awesome to see the sun hit this massive wall of Navajo sandstone. And since I'm walking up the monocline, eventually up at the top there, we'll go down one layer in geologic time and hit another sandstone layer below it. I'm not sure exactly which one that is, but I think it's the Kayenta. Honestly, the sun going down feels really nice because there's something different about dusk in the desert. I can't describe the feeling, but every time the sun sets and I'm just walking around in the desert, it's an amazing feeling. Whereas walking around in the sun all day in the desert is fun, but you know, it can get tiring. But as soon as dusk hits, I feel a bunch of energy come back. You can see why I called it a ramp. It literally is just a ramp of sandstone shooting up into the air. I just want you guys to know how steep this is. This freaking sucks. But at least it's beautiful. And now that I'm so high up, the soil crust is super healthy up here. Has barely been stepped on and is harboring some beautiful cacti and other native plants. You can see it just line the sandstone down this. Ain't no cows up here. The sun just hit me again, and I'm still not there. This is a Stairmaster. On the bright side though, view keeps leveling up. Man, I used to think that dome was super high, now I'm practically above it. You can see the edge though over there. That's where I'm going to right here. Almost there. Oh my. Holy. Oh my God. That's crazy. Wow. Look at that wall. And it just keeps going. Even all the way in the distance there. Here's the other direction. Not as good because I'm facing the sun, but that's unbelievable. This right there, that's insane. You can really see the S shape of the monocline now. I can kind of trace it. We start down here, flat, and then we go up the ramp, and then it would level off here, but all of this has been eroded away, leaving the massive sandstone wall made of Wingate sandstone that's super hard and resistant to erosion, along with a little bit of Navajo sandstone at the top. I feel so accomplished. We scaled the wall. I was just down there earlier. Now I'm not sure right now how much elevation is from there down to the valley bottom, but I'll look it up and put it on the screen. My guess is almost 1,000 feet at least. You can really see now why this would have been an impassable barrier to any early settlers. It is literally a giant wall lifted up from the ground. Now, of course, there's a road through it, but back then, not so much. I'd say I got up here at just the right time to watch the sunset. Yeah, there's no words to describe stuff like this sometimes. Hopefully the footage can. It's crazy that somewhere over there, deep in the ground, is the fault that created the monument upwarp, which led to many monoclines and synclines and anticlines. But this monocline might be the best of them all. Like I said, there's a lot throughout the Colorado Plateau, but none of them make a wall like this. And it's so cool to just see the layers, the individual layers fold down just like they do in the textbooks. It's really a textbook example. This place really has three things that I really love. Really cool, interesting geology, beautiful archaeological history, and then expansive panoramic views. It's really a 3 out of 3 for me. This wind is getting pretty cold, and since the sun is setting, I am going to be walking back in the dark, which I'm not super excited about, but oh well. I appreciate everyone for joining me on this adventure, and I'm really grateful to be here, so that's in part thanks to you guys. Thank you to my Patreon members, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.